Thank you, Ms. White. Be informed that we have votes coming up at 11:45, and so probably by noon, we're going to try to finish this hearing. And then also there'll be some people leaving, both on Democrats and Republicans, for short times, because we're also meeting with another committee at the same time, including myself. So this will be a little bit of an in and out. We'll have 5-minute rounds. Is that okay with you? All right. Sure. General Nakasone, the mission of Cyber Command, as I said in my opening statement, is to defend the homeland, defending military computer networks, and developing and employing military cyber capability. As the combatant commander, you are an operational command that has got to operate within the authorities that you are given. You are not responsible for developing cyber policy, but are responsible for executing the established policy. Now, Russia used online media, as was called to our attention, to try and influence and degrade our election process in 2016, which has nothing to do with you. But I have a question to ask you, General Nakasone. 2 days ago, Admiral Rogers was asked multiple times about who is responsible and what our response should be to another attack by Russia on our elections. There's a lot of options that we could do in response: sanctions, counterattack, and more. If this happened again, can you walk us through how the government could respond to this and what your role would be in that decision-making process, what your role would be? Use your mic.
Senator, thank you. In terms of my responsibility, my role, if confirmed as Commander U.S. Cyber Command, that is to provide a series of options to our civilian leadership for their determination whether or not actions would be taken against an adversary. In this case, the case that you laid out, the ultimate response obviously resides with the President for that decision and Congress. But in terms of response and responsibility for our critical infrastructure at this time, that process rests with the Department of Homeland Security. What I would say in terms of the options that I would provide, obviously are focused on cyber options, but there are probably a wide variety of different options that should be considered. Deterrence in this space could come from a number of capabilities that our nation provides.
All right, thank you. Admiral Rogers, 2 days ago, when he was testifying, he said, and this is a quote, he said, "We are not where we need to be with respect to the structure and organization of the whole of government approach to cyber attacks on the homeland." Now, we've talked about this before, and you've been addressing this with the FBI, DHS, and DOD. Do you have any ideas that you've looked at this on improvements that we can make structurally in this process?
So, Senator, when I look at the structure that's laid out today and the role of DOD, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, and Department of Homeland Security, each with their unique authorities and their unique capabilities, I'm struck that what we must do with this structure is improve the crosstalk, the coordination, the sharing that goes on. If you consider today that 90% of our networks are within the private sector, that private sector is likely to be the first indicator of some type of intrusion or attack, the importance of being able to share that information rapidly amongst all three players to ensure that we understand what is going on and being able to address it is paramount. Yeah. So I come back to this very, very close coordination that must be improved as we look at the three different elements.
Okay, and I wouldn't expect you to come up with the results because this has been a problem that's been there since we established the program. Dr. Park, I want to just get a comment from you having to do with the Iran deal that was made under the Obama administration. That several of the most important provisions to deter the regime from becoming a nuclear state contain sunset clauses set to expire in just a few years. Now, Dr. Park, how can the U.S. mitigate proliferation potential in Iran after these provisions expire in a few years? Got any ideas on that?
So, Senator, it requires international partnership working closely with the IAEA to make sure whatever they do in terms of operating nuclear reactors and so on are strictly monitored. And we have been developing, in fact, advancing proliferation detection systems out of DNN office of R&D, and we will work closely with all the stakeholders to make sure they comply with all the rules and regulations imposed on them.
Okay, that's very good. Ms. White, I do have a question for you, but what we're going to try to do is stay on schedule, so it'll come from one of the other members here shortly.